Hey-o.
That's what she said.
Why would she say hey-o? Welcome into the drive. It is a Thursday, January 3rd. Year of our Lord, your Lord, my Lord, 2019. Still not used to it yet. 2019. Ugh. Or like we were saying yesterday, go away 2019. You're off to a bad start. What do we had? We had Super Dave Osborne, also known as Bob Einstein. He passed away. The captain from Captain and Tennille passed away. There's a big one I'm forgetting. Great. Now the text line's going to go crazy on me. Who's the other guy? Oh, Mean Gene Okerlund. Thank you. He was the first one we heard about yesterday. Mean Gene Okerlund passed away. I believe all were in their mid-70s. What bothered me, though, was seeing the obits for Bob Einstein, and they were all like best known as Larry's foil on the Curb Your Enthusiasm program. And granted, I loved him on that show. He was great, but come on, man. He was best known. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. Was it just me? And I know it's a generational thing. I knew him as Super Dave. Super Dave Osborne was awesome. I even remember his it was his Showtime show, which was great. For those of you not familiar, he would always wear these big jumpsuits, and he would do these jackass style stunts, like stand on top of something and it'd blow up. But the whole funny was he would always fail. And so you'd see like the camera shot of him, riding 150 miles an hour standing on top of a motorcycle. And then the camera would flip real quick, and all of a sudden you'd see the motorcycle hit something, and he'd go flying and tumble like a tumbleweed for half a mile. And of course it wasn't him. It was a dummy. But that's what was funny. And maybe part of it was because of how old I was. I was very young. And just watching this guy get blown up all over the place killed me. I think what a lot of people didn't know was that his younger brother was Albert Brooks. It was a very talented family. 3 brothers in that family. One of them, who you don't know, was a writer. Maybe still is. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's still with us. But Albert Brooks, very, very, very successful. Comedian, did a lot of stuff with Johnny Carson. He did the famous, if you've never seen it, I'm really getting old now, the Speak and Spell bit with Johnny, the imitation kit with Johnny on The Tonight Show. Albert Brooks also, remember his brother, think about this now, his brother Bob Einstein passed away yesterday. Albert Brooks' stage name is Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks' given name was Albert Einstein. So I kind of understand why he changed it, although it would have been quite funny, too, having a very funny Albert Einstein. The text line is very, very angry today. And I thought about this before we get into it. I did think about, oh, God. Kyle, could you come in here, please? Could you please come in here? I need I'm serious. I just need a witness. And if you're watching on cage2k.com, you'll understand what I'm saying. Come around here. Would you mind looking right here at this desk and tell me what that is? What? No, I'm not going to do anything. It's not a surprise. What is that? Do you know what that is? I know.
That looks like a fingernail.
It's a fingernail.
Yeah.
There's a fingernail on the desk.
You want me to call the hazmat unit?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, because I touched it earlier. Somebody left. Who would leave a fingernail on the?
Really gross.
Somebody,
Like honestly, I feel like we got to detox this entire.
No, you know what? Yesterday we were cleaning up in here. We're not allowed to say who, but there's a show that just is sloppy, and they.
Does it rhyme
No, don't don't even joke because we're really not allowed to talk about it. But they brought in, I think, a soda or something, and when we came in here, there were rings all, like a ring from the bottom of a soda cup all over the desk to my right that were dried and sugary. And then I know this wasn't from them or him or her, but now I see a fingernail. There's a fingernail. Somebody left a fingernail on the counter right in front of me. Who does that? And by the way, I'm sure everybody listening probably deals with that. It's a weird.
I hope it was a fingernail, by the way.
As opposed to a toenail?
Yeah.
I was a little rounded. I don't think it could have been a toenail. I feel like that's a universal thing.
Wait, what do your toenails look like?
Well, no, like toenails are bigger and thicker than fingernails, or than fingernails for the most part. Like you can tell,
toenails are typically triangular.
They're square. I feel like everybody works with somebody like that. Everybody works with the person that shares a common space and just destroys it or does not care. And it's just such a simple thing. And I've actually known some really sweet, really nice people that it comes to something like that and they just get a bad rap because of one thing that they just didn't figure out. Dude, if you share a desk, if you share any sort of common space at work with somebody, have some respect. They have to use what you use. Don't be gross. Listen, as sloppy and slobby as I am in real life, I'm pretty sure if Damien was being honest, he'd tell you, despite the fact that the whole studio smells like smoke when I'm done with it, that every day when I leave, I move everything back to the way I found it. In fact, usually better than how I found it. He told me yesterday he wipes down the whole studio. Well, Damien, here's something for you. I wipe it down too before I leave. I even take the little red pen I use, and I kind of put it neatly against the little board in here. I have all the mics correct. It's very important. I want when the next guy comes in, I want he or she to sit down and have a fresh workspace. Anyways, what I was going to say before I started bitching about a bunch of stuff and got sidetracked is that I went back and listened to yesterday's show a little bit. I never do this, but I went back and listened to just a couple of clips of yesterday's show. It just left a bad taste in my mouth. And I think yesterday, and this is my fault, I'm gonna take the L on this. I think yesterday I failed a little bit as a broadcaster because I think I came in angry from the game the night before, and I came in ready to fight with people. And what I did is I picked out probably 5% of the audience, maybe 10, that were texting and tweeting. And I spent most of the show, and poor Kyle got dragged along with me. I mean, I'm driving this thing. Kyle's riding shotgun. Of course, it's not Kyle's fault. Kyle's, hanging his head out the passenger side with his best friend's ride, like in Scrubs. But I think what I did is most of the shows just fighting with these ding-dongs on Twitter and on the text line, instead of talking to the other 90% of you that were on the same page as me and most of the fan base and going over, well, what actually happened? What actually happened in the game, other than Willie sucked and, but literally, what happened? What happened on that final play? Was it a good play? Was it right to not call the timeout? Like, specifically analyzing the game. I think I failed at doing that for you. So I'm sorry. I do try to get better. I do try to pay attention. I think that was missing. So today, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, including two of my favorite people in the world coming to a physical altercation. I'm not doing a bit. Well, that's in our morning brew. We have a game tonight. We got to get in this Antonio Brown thing. I'm sure Kyle will have all kinds of thoughts on.
I have takes.
But I do want to harken back a tiny bit in our King segments to Portland and what we can learn, hopefully, from that, and what was right and what was wrong. Also, Greg Papa, rumors say, I don't want to guarantee this or not, but rumors say Greg Papa may, in fact, join us tomorrow on the program. and he is the new voice of your San Francisco 49ers. We'll take a break. Coming up next, Morning Brew, we start the show in earnest. Thank you, Ernest, for always letting us start the show. And The Drive begins next on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Inside, Plumlee able to convert. Alley-oop set up at the rim. 101-79. So with just over 2 minutes to go in the third, the Denver Nuggets have hit the century mark.
Yeah, well, the Denver Nuggets will almost certainly hit the century mark tonight. They are, if the playoffs began today in early January, they would be the number one seed in the toughest conference in the NBA. 24-11 is their record, trailing only the Bucks and the Raptors, and ahead of the Golden State Warriors by a half game. So here's what's going on with the Nuggets. They have won 7 of 10. They have won 3 in a row. Their last 2 losses came in San Antonio and in L.A. versus the Clippers. They have beaten the Spurs, the Suns, and the Knicks. Not exactly the toughest slate. This is a tough game for Sacramento, and I know, they're very good, Denver is, but you've got Michael Malone, and I know this for a fact. Michael Malone is awesome and is very cool and says awesome things, but Michael Malone also wants to kick the Kings' ass every single time he plays them, especially in Sacramento, because they tossed him aside really for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Now he's the head coach of the number one seed in the West, and this is also a horrific matchup when it comes to on the floor as well for the Kings. They have a center that can do a lot of things, as most centers do, versus Willie Cauley-Stein in that front line. And then here's the thing. They're very much like the Clippers, except for Nikola Jokic, who is one of the best players in the NBA that a lot of people don't really appreciate because he's not terribly flashy, but he's terribly good.
And even looking up at Malone's Nuggets.
I'm going to need to hear that a little louder, please.
And even looking up at Malone's Nuggets.
Yeah, we don't want to look up at Malone's Nuggets tonight whatsoever.
The thing with Jokic is basketball Twitter is very into Nikola Jokic.
Basketball Twitter is very into him because they get it.
We always talk about like Luka Doncic's highlights, like catch. Nikola Jokic, pass. Mm-hmm. That's an easy 1,000 retweets just off the top. People love.
But
Nikola
when it
Jokic
comes to jersey sales. Highlights, all that. It's not like Jokic is all over the place, and he should be.
Yeah.
But then, much like the Clippers, and we'll get into this more at 6:30, you look at the rest of that team does not jump out at you. Jamal Murray, Malik Beasley, Juan Hernangomez, Mason Plumlee. It's like the Clippers. They don't jump out at you. They're just really good at what they do.
Hey, side note real quick.
Yeah, please.
This is from Adam Schefter.
Uh-huh.
The NFL has a new casino sponsor.
Saw that. Go ahead.
This is from Adam Schefter. The NFL has selected Caesars Entertainment Corporation as the first ever official casino sponsor of the NFL.
So 2 things there. Number 1, you said selected, which made me kind of laugh. Number 2, so this is very important because the NFL is still not completely behind gambling, is that does not include, as of right now at least, there's no gambling associated with that. They're just a casino that sponsors the NFL. None of the other stuff comes with it like you're seeing in baseball or basketball, and that's a part of the release that the NFL put out. It's just simply Caesars is like any other blue chip brand, brought to you by, but that's not entirely a partnership yet, but it's coming.
That's called laying groundwork.
Yeah. Well, no, it's actually called a sponsorship, Kyle.
Oh.
That's what it said in the release.
Hey, is that your new thing in 2019, by the way? You've done that a lot to me this year.
What?
Just now you did it, and then on Twitter you've done it a bunch of times where I make a joke, and then you say when I do the Adam Vinatieri was teammates with Johnny Unitas, and you're like, actually, Adam Vinatieri was born a year before Johnny Unitas' final season.
2019 is the year of the well actually bit for me. I'm really having a lot of fun with it.
That's my thing.
Well, I know. I'm co-opting it. You had it in 2018.
You're stealing it.
I am taking it and making it better. I am taking well actually.
It's well actually without the millennial tinge.
But exactly. I'm also enjoying doing things like when a reporter like James Ham or Sean Cunningham will be like, Marvin Bagley said today that his bone bruise is feeling better and he could, his return is imminent. I'll quote tweet it and be like, no, he didn't. And just leave it like that. Just like they're lying. And then people be like, dude, the video is right here. No, it's not. I'll just keep it going.
I don't know Sean Cunningham or James Ham well enough to do that, but some of my, like Chris Biederman, the Sacramento Bee guy, when he'll say something like, DeForest Buckner said it, I'll be like, wow, we get it. You talked to DeForest Buckner.
There you go.
Cool, man.
It's a great bit. Number 2.
Garrett Temple in a 4-point game, working straight away against Buddy Hield. One dribble, gives it up, gets it back from Conley, launches for 3, and scores again.
That's Garrett Temple. Hey, we're running late because we spent a lot of time on that. Our third brew is Antonio Brown, and we'll get into Antonio Brown a bit later. So let me just what? You're looking at me weird.
Oh, I said ew.
Oh, right. Thank you. I want to spend the rest of our time here on this. I saw this report come from old Shams Charania last night that Memphis lost their 3rd game in a row. They had a locker room meeting. And in the meeting, it got so heated that Garrett Temple and Omri Casspi got physical with each other. Now, it didn't say came to... I don't think it said came to blows.
I feel like that phrase was used.
Maybe
Did
it
you
was.
write it? No.
No. I said they got into it. And then I said fighting. It definitely, according to the reports, got physical. And I saw that, I went, wait, what? Not only are Omri Casspi and Garrett Temple 2 of my favorite Kings of all time, they're 2 of my favorite people of all time. They're friends of the program. They're great people. They're super duper nice people. They're also intensely competitive in their locker room voices, and that's obviously where it came from. I read that and went, what are you doing? So I'll be a humble bragger yet a bad boy here too, because I shouldn't do this. I will just say this, and I will respect the anonymity. I did reach out to both of them late last night, and I got a response from one of them. I'm not going to say who, because I feel like I'm only half breaking confidences here. And I basically sent a message like, man, I hope everything's okay. I love you both. What is going on here? And I got back a text that simply said, thanks, bro. We're going to be just fine. So I think that kind of confirms what we already knew, which is, first off, I'm awesome and I get to talk to NBA players. That's really the headline. But secondly,
oh, I'm Dave. I got a text.
There you go. God, I was leading you into that for like 5 minutes. Secondly, this was obviously something that 2 very passionate locker room veterans got into. And I'll just bet, now this part I don't know, but I will just bet before the end of the night, I will just bet they were hugging. They were hugging it out and talking and arms around each other. And 2 class acts. 2 really, really good dudes. I can't say enough good about them. But God, Garrett Temple and Omri Casspi fighting. What? Anyway, we'll get into this Antonio Brown. I guess it was a weird day for Antonio Brown, and it ended weirder than it went the entire day. Like there was a weird finale to the Antonio Brown day. We'll talk about that in this show, especially in 4-down territory. Next segment, maybe we'll get into that. The Casspi Temple thing, we can kind of talk about a little bit. I'll clean up the text line, and we're going to do a little bit of UFC today at 6:45. I promised you we'd do that. A lot of Kings. Sam Amick at 8:05. It's The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK.
This is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings are back in action tonight at home against the number 1 seed in the West, the Denver Nuggets. We'll have full coverage of that one right here on Sports 1140, beginning with game night at 5:30. Kings Live is at 6:30, and tip-off is slated for 7 o'clock. Paul George was hit with a shower of boos from the Staples Center crowd last night, but he responded with 37 points in the Thunder's 107-100 win over the Lakers. And Gordon Hayward had a monster night for the Celtics in their 115-102 win against the Timberwolves. He had 35 points and 5 assists in his best game since returning from that gruesome leg injury last season. And the NFL announced that they've chosen Caesars Entertainment Corporation as their official casino sponsor. It's their first ever sponsor. It's their first ever casino sponsor, I should say. So big news on the gambling front there. Even though it's technically not like a gambling sponsorship. it seems to be heading that way.
Sure does.
It's 6:31. Thanks, Dave. Time to plan your football playoff party treats. Start at your local Sprouts Farmers Market and Sprouts.com. Those are your top stories. Now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
The song's going away.
Here we go. The drive continues now.
Football playoffs start this weekend. Colts Texans at 1:35. The Eagles will play the Bears at 1:40. Kyle, I have a question for you. You're a football honk. You write for places and things. You're regarded as one of the greatest, at least top 1,000 football minds in the country.
I would call myself a top 3 writer in the nation on NinersWire.com.
Okay. I will back that up.
Thank you.
If the Eagles beat the Bears this Saturday, say the Eagles make the NFC Championship game, not even the Super Bowl. Let's make the NFC Championship game.
And losing the title game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We actually brought this up. I remember that at some point this year we brought this up in Four Down territory, and you gave me an emphatic no. Do they really need to look at Carson Wentz's future with that ball club? Don't you kind of have to at this point?
No.
Nick Foles saved their season.
Here's what I think is, I think when we brought that up, because I think we brought that up in like the second week of the year.
It was very early.
It was super early.
Very early. It was very early. It was when the Eagles were sucking. And we brought that up as like, do they need to take a look at a switch? And I think you gave me a lot of Wentz numbers. Like, it's not Wentz's fault.
So, right. That was after he had come back. That's right. But at that point, it was like they're not even going to entertain an offer. Like, a team could call and say, we'll give you 5 first-round picks. And they're going to go, no, this is our franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tough to find. We've still got him on a rookie deal.
Sure.
But now I think they've put the phone back on the line. And if a team calls, if all this happens, let's say, and Foles has to play well.
Yeah.
He can't, he did not play well against the Falcons last year. The Falcons just botched it in the red zone at the end of the game, and that sparked the Eagles' whole run.
Last 3 games, Foles has averaged 321 yards per game. 77% of his passes have been completed. 6 touchdowns. His passer rating is 108.4.
Yeah, he's been excellent.
But
if he stumbles into a trip to the NFC title game, no, I don't think anything happens. But if he goes out and throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns against this Bears defense, and then goes into New Orleans, which is probably where they would go. They're the 6th seed. So they would then go to New Orleans, and they beat the Saints in New Orleans behind an excellent Nick Foles performance.
What if it's not an excellent Nick Foles performance? What if they just beat both the Bears and the Saints?
Then no. Then no.
But doesn't it at some point, as much as in the numbers as we both are, don't you at some point look at the quarterback that just simply leads the team to victory? And
I think part of that is because they embrace that underdog role so heavily.
Sure.
We've already seen Alshon Jeffrey this week on Tuesday or Wednesday was already doing the there's a calendar on my
you looked at your non-existent watch.
I do that. No, I have a watch on.
But your sleeve was over it, I thought.
No, I was up.
Okay,
that's why I did the emphatic to get my sleeve out of the way. Anyways,
kind of watch
Tuesday
is
or
that?
Wednesday. It's a Fitbit.
That's a nice Fitbit.
It's very
Is
nice.
that the Blaze?
No, it's called I forget what it's called.
Okay, anyways, your point.
But Alshon Jeffrey's already playing the card heavy of nobody believes in us. And I think that's a lot to do with Nick Foles and just kind of the way the team rallies around him. I'm not sure if that would be the same if he was the starter. If he was just their guy going forward.
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably right.
It's a good thing you hear me because that means I'm going out over the air.
But if Carson Wentz is the number 2 pick in the draft, Carson Wentz is by all accounts a tremendous quarterback. If Nick Foles comes in and takes over for him 1 year and wins a Super Bowl and then comes in and basically literally saves the Eagles season, gets them into the playoffs, and then gets them as far as, let's say, the NFC Championship game, or dare I say even a victory over the Bears this weekend, I think they have an incredibly, incredibly difficult thing on their hands. Plus, knowing that they could trade Carson Wentz and what they could get for Carson Wentz.
Right.
Aren't you better off with Nick Foles and the bounty that Wentz gives you?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily, because you're going to have to pay Nick Foles a lot of money. And eventually you're going to have to pay Carson Wentz too. I understand that. But they still have, after this year, they have Carson Wentz's 4th year, and they have his 5th year option.
Mm-hmm.
So they have 2 more years to kind of figure this out.
Sure.
And I'm not sure, right now, I'm not sure what you're going to exactly get for Foles. You're not going to maximize his value, or not for Foles, but for Wentz.
For Wentz.
You're not going to maximize his value because of how hurt he's been.
I agree, but let's say you go to a Jacksonville. Maybe you even go to a Denver. You go to a team that needs a quarterback, and you say, here you go. You're getting a couple of first-rounders at least.
You're getting
at least.
And I know. I don't want this to come across like I'm diminishing Khalil Mack's impact.
Right.
But teams value quarterbacks above everything.
Especially 2 years on a rookie deal left,
right.
as you said.
So you're looking at what Khalil Mack, what Raiders got for Khalil Mack.
Right.
You're looking at double that, 1.5 times that. You're looking at probably 3 first-rounders, a couple of day 2 picks.
Yep.
Like, you are giving up your future, basically.
If you're Jacksonville and Philly calls you and says, we'll give you Carson Wentz, we want 2 first-rounders, a third-rounder, and Leonard Fournette. I know you don't like Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, he's not very good. I don't know why they would do that.
but let's say, if you're Jacksonville, do you say yes?
Yeah, because that's a steal, I think.
2 firsts, a third, and Fournette, who is a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I think that's a steal.
Okay. Interesting to follow. We'll keep an eye on that, obviously.
But here's NFL teams. Now, Howie Roseman's a little different, the Eagles GM, because he's more willing to think outside the box. Mm-hmm. But teams are petrified of making a move that is going to be looked back on in 5 years and being like, why did you do that? You had Carson Wentz.
Sure.
If let's say Nick Foles doesn't win the Super Bowl with the Eagles this year, but let's say he dominates, plays excellent in the NFC Championship game, they just lose to the Rams in LA.
Yep.
And they go, hey, you know what? We're going with Foles. Carson Wentz is on the trade market. Trade him to Jacksonville. Jacksonville wins a Super Bowl next year.
Sure.
And they're contenders for the next decade with Carson Wentz under center, while the Eagles sputter with Nick Foles.
Yeah, you're probably losing your job in a couple years.
Right. And that's something where if they don't make a move, they're not. They're not going to lose their jobs, I mean.
One more thing I want to clean up from the Jiffy Lube text line at 441140. One of our guys, I think I recognize him too. He was kind of spazzing yesterday too. Are 49er fans really upset Greg Papa is the new voice of the Niners? Like who is upset about that? Like, no disrespect to Ted Robinson, who I happen to like very much. None of this is shade at Ted Robinson, who did a fine job.
And Ted Robinson is, if he's not in the legendary tier, he's just below
right
it with all the stuff he's done with the Olympics and tennis. He's amazing.
But he's not Greg Papa. Sorry.
No, and Greg Papa, there's a very Bay Area specific thing with Greg Papa.
First to call, by the way, for the Power 5 in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
He's done them all now.
Yes.
He has done Giants, A's, Warriors, Raiders, Niners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a Bay Area staple, and I know there's people who tie him to the Raiders specifically because he was there. Right. But he is a phenomenal broadcaster.
The moment the Raiders fired him and we heard him take a job with the 49ers, this was writing on the wall. It was going to happen.
My first job here was running the board for live events. So Raiders, A's, Sharks. Kings. I did a ton of Raiders games.
UC Davis.
Mm-hmm. I did a ton of Raiders games, college football.
Sure.
There are not a lot of radio broadcasters, national or local, better.
No, there aren't. There just aren't.
And the way he prepares, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on this show, but I used to work at NBC. Mm-hmm. And the way he prepares, like Monday, he has the opposing teams' game notes printed out. He's got 2 games up on his screen.
Sure.
He's calling over the NBC football analysts and asking them about stuff.
Sure.
He knows. He has forgotten more about football.
We've had him on the show for years, and he's an
amazing.
encyclopedia. And we're trying to get him to join us tomorrow. We do have to take a break, but to your point, I think he is very, very easily a top 5 local broadcaster for a football game. And what I mean by that is a lot of your quote-unquote best broadcasters are doing national games.
Right.
And then you have a different set, which is your local games.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Papa could very easily be a national broadcaster, and I think that was on the horizon for him. This is perfect for him. He stays in the Bay Area. He's putting all his kids through college, and we'll talk to him about this. If you're a Niner fan, though, I'm baffled.
I'm very excited.
I'm baffled that you don't like it.
I don't listen to a ton of Niners on radio.
Yeah.
But
I'll start.
Yeah, when I have to.
Greg Papa's phenomenal. He's almost flawless as a broadcaster. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, promised you yesterday we'd get into a little bit of UFC, so we'll do that in the next segment. Kings versus Denver. We'll look at some of that at the top of the hour. John Jones wins. Amanda Nunes shocks the world, and we're going to have a conversation about Amanda Nunes. Darren Ravello over the weekend said she was terrible for the UFC by beating Chris Cyborg and some other things. We're going to get into what he said, why Dana White reacted the way he did, and have a conversation about that, because I think it's an important conversation. We'll do that next on The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK. Back to The Drive, 339-1140. 1-800-920-1140. My key wasn't working. You give me the stare.
You just text me next time. I'll come get you.
I know. Well, it's one of those things where by the time I text you and you get it, and then you text me back, then you have to leave.
If you say, just key, I will sprint downstairs to let you in.
Let's not let this segment get completely away from us. Apologies. Hope you enjoyed the Amazon commercial / Jackson's song. The UFC happened over the weekend. We didn't talk about it yesterday, and I know it's been a few days. Yes.
Can I real quick? Amazon should be saying that's the Drive song.
I agree.
Okay, very good. Keep going.
John Jones beat Alexander Gustafsson. And I heard a lot of people going after Gustafsson. Like, oh, he didn't show up. It wasn't the best Alex or something. Ring rust. He was, I think, 19 months since he had last fought. And John Jones obviously had a layoff. Quick opinion on that. Very simple. I think Alex Gustafsson showed up. I think John Jones is just the best ever was.
He got dismantled.
And before you start furiously texting, please understand, I look at John Jones as the Barry Bonds of the UFC. Sure. He's very, very much the same there. I believe he is the greatest fighter to ever live. I believe he is the best all-around fighter to ever live. And I believe, and I can't support this, that he would have been the best to ever live without steroids.
Yeah.
I believe Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player to ever live. Now, Mike Trout may have something to say about that in a few years. I don't know. But right now, to me, Barry Bonds is the greatest all-around player. And, yeah, he wasn't known for his defense. And, yeah, he got some gimme gold gloves. But Barry Bonds, there has, to me, never been an offensive player like Barry Bonds, who also, by the way, happened to steal a few bags back in his day. But he will forever be tainted by the fact that he took steroids. So, you can be the best and I think have an asterisk. And I know a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people believe that John Jones should be disqualified.
Sure.
That's your opinion and you're entitled to it. I believe he's the greatest MMA fighter of all time. What really interested...
John Jones, bro.
John Betta. What really interested me was watching Chris Cyborg get absolutely destroyed by Amanda Nunes. Chris Cyborg lost her first fight, I believe due to submission, and then ran off, I want to say, 27 straight wins. I think Chris Cyborg, and I want to see a rematch for this reason, I think Chris Cyborg believed, and rightfully so, that she was invincible and that nobody in the world could touch her. I think she had taken punches from people before. And I think she didn't care. And she ran through everybody. I think she decided to do the same thing with Amanda Nunes, and that didn't work.
when Nunes came out, because I went and I sat and I watched these fights for the first time in a long time. When Nunes came out and just her first punch was just a knockout shot.
Yeah.
That was everybody in the place I was at. It was like attention is turned.
Yep.
Because I don't think anyone expected.
Everyone was screaming, "Oh!"
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Same at my house. So I want to see what a humble Cyborg going in and saying, "Okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this against her. I need to go in with an actual game plan other than kill and murder."
They need to reprogram her.
Pretty much. So, and because we have a shorter segment here, I'm moving along quickly. Darren Ravel, and I'm paraphrasing, basically tweeted out that Amanda Nunes winning, and Amanda Nunes through her career and the wins she's had, was very bad for the UFC. And Dana White took massive exception to that, saying she wasn't marketable. And I know Dana, and I like him, and blah, 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 whatever, who cares? But Dana White is also full of garbage a lot of times. And when you look at the fact that Amanda Nunes has killed off 3 go-tos for the UFC in the women's division, Miesha Tate, Chris Cyborg now, and she retired or helped retire along with Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey.
Mm-hmm.
There is no question that Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate, and to a point Chris Cyborg, are much more marketable. The interesting one is Chris Cyborg. Because, and this needs to be a longer conversation, almost needs to be a podcast, because it's an uncomfortable.
I feel like you're diving into something.
It's an uncomfortable conversation.
Sure.
But you're dealing with an audience that is predominantly 18 to 34-year-old men. And to dismiss the fact that what the bulk of UFC fans want to see is an attractive female that kicks ass is just completely dismissing what I think is the largest part of the argument when it comes to how the UFC markets and how fans watch the UFC.
Okay.
I love and respect Paige Van Zandt, local Team Alpha Male. Right. This is no shade to her. Her looks have helped her get fights. The fact that she speaks good English has helped her get fights, and many others. There is a looks thing, and there is an English-speaking thing that is very prevalent, not just with the women, the looks, but also looking at a guy like Jose Aldo, who was notorious for being a poor marketer of himself. Not wanting to do
amazing fighter.
An amazing fighter. But if the UFC had their way, it would be an attractive American woman killing everybody, or English woman killing everybody. That's what they market. Is Amanda Nunes not marketable? And by the way, Amanda Nunes is also gay, and I don't think that matters at all because of how Chris Cyborg,
I had no idea,
who is not gay, but Chris Cyborg wasn't known as this tremendously good. You know, Chris Cyborg will get made fun of all the time on the internet for looking like a man because a lot of UFC fans are douchebags. Let's just be honest. Chris Cyborg was not known as a supermodel. Let's just put it that way. But she kicked ass and had for a decade.
Kicked so much ass.
Correct. So I think, and again, we got a break. You're right. Way too deep of a topic. But there need to be some real questions asked about this. Not just about, is Amanda Nunes marketable because of a lot of the things we just mentioned, but how much is the UFC at fault for not marketing Amanda Nunes, much like were they at fault for not marketing Mighty Mouse? It's chicken and egg. Did they not market them, and that's why they're not big, or are they not big because they're not marketable, and that's why the UFC didn't market them?
Right.
They just crossed their fingers and waited for them to get beat. And you saw as soon as Mighty Mouse Johnson got beat, he went to another organization.
Yep.
As soon as he lost. After years of dominance and being the pound-for-pound number one fighter in the world, the moment he lost, see you later, because the UFC did not want to risk having him win the title back and then having to try to put him on pay-per-views.
Right.
It's a very deep conversation, very much into, but we'll take a break. We'll get to more on this. We'll try to see if we can get John Anik on maybe next week and have a more extended conversation. When we come back, Kings Denver, Mike Malone back in town. We'll get into that next. Sports 1140 KHTK.